time. We're here today to talk about the bureaucratic challenges to recovery after one of the most devastating hurricane seasons in history. Exactly 6 months ago yesterday, Hurricane Maria, a monster of a storm, struck our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico. The island sustained deadly 155-mile-an-hour winds and 20 to 30 inches of rainfall in a period of just 24 hours. Sadly, lives were lost as a result. Now, the President took action by deploying the full weight of the United States government. Within 6 days of Maria's landfall, more than 10,000 federal employees were deployed to aid in the recovery. Puerto Rico's residents were completely without electricity. Thousands of homes and businesses were destroyed. Individuals found themselves with no power, no water, and no way to communicate with one another. Emergency response crews have operated around the clock to restore these critical services ever since, but there's still more to do. Thanks to the hard work and generosity of countless people, thousands of meals and gallons of water have been distributed. Children are back in school, and the most vulnerable, again, have access to medical care. But we need to do more. As of last week, there were still as many as 150,000 people without power across the island. Interruptions due to overloads or equipment failures still happen virtually weekly. Additionally, 96% of the island now has access to potable drinking water, but when you look at the different regions, you see, for example, that 17% of the population in the western portion of the island are still lacking their own safe water supply. 88% of the gas stations are up and running, 92% of grocery stores are open, but 2/5 of the roadways are still either closed or impassable. And more than 890 generators are still the primary source of power for some key facilities, including the wastewater treatment plants and the San Juan Financial District. In the aftermath, over 6 months, due to the lack of basic services, hundreds of thousands of citizens in Puerto Rico found themselves making the hard choice to relocate due to the need to find jobs because their workplaces were out of business, so they could send their kids to school and care for their elders. They have moved to many states. One of the main points of entry has been my state of Florida, where there's been a major effort to offer relocation assistance. Many of these citizens await normalization to return to the island, while others are surely staying for the long term. But all of them want to know, when will their hometowns and their families be able to fully stand back on their feet? They do not forget Puerto Rico, and neither do we. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is the lead coordinator on all things disaster-related, overseeing the historic interagency effort underway in Puerto Rico. We want to hear FEMA's perspective on what went right and what could have been done better and what still needs to be done. Mr. Michael Beeran, the Assistant Administrator for Field Operations, is joining us here today to shed some light on FEMA's role in the recovery. While we have heard a lot about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' role in the effort to restore power to Puerto Rico, the Department of Energy is actually the lead agency for Emergency Support Function Number 12, the Energy Annex. The Department is responsible for facilitating the restoration of damaged energy systems and components, which was certainly needed in Puerto Rico. We have a representative here today from Energy's Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability to discuss the progress being made on the ground and the work yet to be done. So I want to thank Mr. Parks for being here. These two officials should help us shed light on what it will take to get the power fully restored, and we will want to know what it will take to make the part of the task so that the effort is continued without interruptions. Another critical element of restoring Puerto Rico is the access to safe, drinkable water and the removal of solid waste. Mr. Peter Lopez from the Environmental Protection Agency is here to testify about EPA's role in ensuring the residents of Puerto Rico can and will have access to safe drinking water and what the federal, state, and local authorities need to do to ensure this in the future. We also have Scott Aronson from the Edison Electric Institute. EEI represents all U.S. investor-owned electric companies. In response to a request for assistance, EEI coordinated with its members to deploy incident management teams in support of power restoration efforts across the island. Through this agreement, industry experts coordinate with the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority and the Army Corps to restore power to the people of Puerto Rico. All told, almost 6,700 federal personnel, civilian and military, are currently supporting the recovery and restoration efforts in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thousands more from non-government and charitable organizations have come forward to help get Puerto Rico back on its feet. So we want to discuss what lessons we've learned from this devastation before the next hurricane season is upon us. We also want to hear what changes are being made to ensure we do better going forward, and that the lessons learned to help the nation be better prepared for such catastrophic events. And the Puerto Rico, I mean, they're going to face another hurricane season here in just a few months, and I think it's important that we solve all these problems by then. So I want to thank you for your efforts to date and for coming to answer our questions. And with that, I will yield